Hello and welcome to Character Development Video 4. And we're going to title this one When Things Do Not Go the Way You Plan, which happens sometimes when you get a new character. And I want to tell you how everything went absolutely wrong for me. And I want to encourage you to let those wrong things happen. Please don't be one of those people that give up on a character and just leave them in a box and don't put them to work. I do have a couple characters that don't get to work, but make that a last-ditch effort. If you're familiar with my work at all, if you've ever seen me on stage, you know that my characters tell me that they say to me, "You suck, Trish," because I perform in the US and the UK, and they tell me all the time, "You suck, Trish." And I gotta tell you, when it comes to developing this character, I think I have sucked pretty bad. But let's go over what happened. Let me apologize. I really did intend to come back in 2 weeks and have the voice nailed for this character. And I intended to come back and start working on comedy with you guys for this character, as that is an essential part of character development. That did not happen. If you remember, we came up with a perfect character profile. When I saw this guy, I had a vision. I saw like an old hippie dude, kind of like Cheech and Chong, and I did everything I could. I had a vision for the voice, and it didn't work. We all have certain limited ranges. If you remember in the last video, I encouraged you work on that voice. Don't worry about your lip control. Just come up with a voice that is different. I had a vision of a voice for this particular guy. And talk about things going wrong. If you notice, I'm recording this video sitting down as opposed to standing up. That is because I accidentally pulled the blind out of the socket and talking about things going wrong, so I hope you don't mind us sitting down. Also, now that I'm working with this character, he is a very tall character. He's actually not that much shorter than me, and I'm not sure that him sitting on a stand is going to be the way I want to go with him. I think he's going to be a standing character, and we will cover that a bit later and what we are going to do and insofar as giving him a stand to stand on and how we're going to work that out, because sometimes they can be a little bit floppy. He is very top heavy, and that is going to be a consideration. It's probably to do with all this Gandalf hair that he has, and I don't know. He might have to get a haircut. But we're not gonna go there. But anyway, let's go over what happened with this character. I had a voice, and everybody has certain ranges, and my voice was to make him kind of a Cheech and Chong character, and so I worked on the voice. And so my vision was kind of like, and I've got a couple quotes here, and I'll show you what I can mean. In my mind, and what I was working on was kind of like a Cheech and Chong kind of like voice, and he would say things like, "Hey, man, then those terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government, and I'm here to help." Yeah. And so that's where I was. I didn't really think that was deep enough. I kept working on it, tried to make it deeper. And then I would compare it to Cecil. And I'm not going to put Cecil in my hand, but if you can imagine Cecil's here, and Cecil would say, "Then those terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. Ronald Reagan." Yeah, so if you just listen to him, sounds kind of similar. Then those Yeah, man, then those terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government. See, no matter what I do, even when we tried to go much deeper, yeah, man, it still sounded so much like Cecil. I could not shake it. I put him up for a little bit, which is a good thing to do. I brought him back out. I worked on my vision. I have watched so many Cheech and Chong movies. I've listened to Cheech and Chong YouTube. I've even done some audios of some albums from way back in the day, and some of their comedy would be very inappropriate in today's times. I had no idea. Just a thought. But anyway, so, I don't want to abandon this character. I absolutely love him. You're not like that. And so I want to keep working with him. So he has been rebranded, more or less. So I have decided, and hopefully I'm putting the revised character profile up here in the corner. So the changes that I made, his name was, of course, Dude, because he was this American, grew up, and he was a hippie and all this kind of stuff. But I've decided to go in a completely different direction with the voice. So his voice now, because I do think it is more, it's not perfect. I am not 100% happy with it. When I grade myself, I am not in an A yet, but I do think it is more different than the Cecil voice. So would you like to do some quotes? And his name is now changed to Jacob. All right. Then those terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. The problem with socialism is the problem with socialism is eventually you run out of other people's money. That's Margaret Thatcher. And I know what you're thinking. Why am I doing a Ronald Reagan quote and a Margaret Thatcher quote when clearly he's a Bernie Sanders labor kind of dude? Well, that's because there aren't very many quotes from Bernie Sanders, and the ones that are out there are really long. So, what about a John Lennon quote? Does that work for you? All right. Life is what happens when you are busy making other plans. John Lennon. So you can see I probably have a little bit of lip movement, but I'm gonna do that. We're gonna do that one more time because I do think it is a bit different. And let's bounce off. Let's do John Lennon, and then we're gonna do Cecil doing John Lennon, and maybe you'll see why I have been forced to change his profile and go in a different direction, though a lot of the meat and potatoes of his profile are the same. It's just his backstory and demographics that are going to be a bit different. Life is what happens when you are busy making other plans. John Lennon. Life is what happens when you are busy making other plans. John Lennon. And that, of course, the last one was my Cecil voice. I do think that there is more of a difference between these two. Again, I'm going to say he is definitely nowhere near stage ready. When the time comes that he is stage ready, let's take your hat off for a minute. Nah, let's put your hat back on. It suits you. When the time comes that he is stage ready, he probably will never go back to back with Cecil, just because there is still, I think, a little bit of a similarity. And I'm a female, and if you are a female, you probably have more trouble with the male voices, unless you're one of those girls I'm really jealous of that have the really sexy, sultry, deeper voice, which I am not blessed with. So let's go over how we're changing him. So my inspiration for his voice is based on a guy called Jacob Rees-Mogg, because he cracks me up because he is so posh. He is so posh in the way that he talks. And of course, I don't think that I can talk that posh. And I've been working on it with him. I am trying to be very posh. Yes. But so I've been watching a lot of Jacob Rees-Mogg, and I actually have copied over some of Jacob Rees-Mogg's quotes, and I had one I was going to read, but it fell on the floor. So I'm not going to grab it. But anyway, so let's look at it the way his character profile changed. Originally, if you remember, he was born in Huntersville, North Carolina, but he ended up going to UCLA, fell in love with San Francisco, became a hippie out there. Well, obviously, if he was born in Huntersville, North Carolina, I would not talk posh. So, he is going to have to be born here in the UK, which is where I am right now. And, because I was born in North Carolina, which is why I don't sound like I'm from the UK, but I went a lot. So anyway, so he is going to be born in the UK, but we are going to stick with him going to UCLA. We are going to stick with him dropping out, falling in love with the hippie movement, falling in love with San Francisco. He has now moved to North Carolina. Why did I move to North Carolina? All places. Well, he has moved to North Carolina because he is part of the Vent crew, and Cecil and Agnes and Clem and Precious are all his distant family. Things have gotten a little bit crazy in San Francisco, and he has been forced to kind of move in with his family for a bit here in North Carolina, even though he is the British extension of the family. His other demographics are going to be very much the same. He is very much socialist, very much hippie, very much whatever. He did have on a black bandana. This hat was actually, I love this hat. This hat was actually one of my daddy's hats, and I think it suits him very much. I kind of think it suits me. And I'm going to have to figure out a way to have it stick to his head better. I'll probably put some rough things on the inside. I don't want to mess up his hair. So I don't want to mess up the hat. So I'm probably going to come up with something that will make it just stay on his head a little bit better. There is another flat cap that I think he would look good in, but I actually kind of really like that one too. So we'll work on that. His outfit, it very well may change a bit. He wears boat shoes. I think that's going to continue to be okay with him being a posh person, or from a very posh family. It's going to be the same thing. If you remember in the demographics, he had this enormous trust fund. He's rich. He don't have to worry about anything. He sells art. Still exactly the same, because he can be British posh person and still be a hippie and sell art and do all of those things. That is where I am. So I have decided on the voice. I am working on it to let you know how I am working on it, because I know you're probably like, oh, Trish, your lip control sucks and the voice is not quite there. I agree 100%. I am working on it every day. I do lip control practice. His voice has now been added to the lip control practice rotation. Also, every day I do an audio recording of Cecil, Clem, and Jacob, which is now his name, Jacob. And I am listening to those differeences, and I am really working on trying to deepen his voice and stay with the poshness. Probably need to watch a lot more Jacob Rees-Mogg. And the next step will be doing some comedy with this guy. So, fingers crossed the next 2 weeks work well, and we come back with a little bit of comedy for him. Like I said, he's not stage ready, but I think the next time we ought to come up with a comedy short. So let me reiterate. Sometimes you're going to buy a character that is absolutely banging and you love them. Oh, I love you too. And it just doesn't work out. You can't nail the voice. Don't give up on the character. Don't be so stuck with your character profile you're not willing to change. Things can change. Look at this great, big, wonderful world we have. There are so many different awesome people with awesome different beliefs and ways of being. And that is what we do as ventriloquists. We bring different characters to life. So, I hope this encouraged you. If you've got a character that you're working on and struggling with, or maybe you've given up on, get him back out, or her back out, or it back out. Work on it, and let's get together in a few weeks. Promise it won't be quite as long as the last time, and let's come up with some comedy for them. Again, if you are working on a character and you are new to ventriloquism and you're really struggling with some writing techniques and things, I have a book out, dialogue, comedy, and joke writing for dummies. It is on Amazon, and I encourage you to get it. It is not very expensive, and if you are going to be at the US convention in July, I will have some copies there. If you're going to be at the UK convention in June, I'll have some copies there, and I can't wait to see you. So thanks, and good luck on your character development. You didn't let me say goodbye. I forgot. Cheerio. Cheerio. That was stupid.